Yes, today is Palm Sunday, and what a very fitting song. Now, how many of you know the story of Palm Sunday and Holy Week? Okay, so there's a couple that do know that, and so you'll be invited up to speak in a little bit about your experience. I'm joking. However, this marks in Christianity a very important week. Now, it wasn't Holy Week back in the day when this happened over 2,000 years ago, but Palm Sunday is significant. First of all, it's a story that in all the four Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, there's a story being told of this account. And so we know it's significant because all the four Gospels mentions it. And it's also the beginning of a journey for Jesus, who is making his way to Jerusalem and ultimately, as we come to know it, as a crucifixion. But in unity, we know that as the canceling out of error. And later on in this sermon, Reverend Leavitt is going to be talking about the community, the canceling out of old beliefs, worn out beliefs, and taking on this new identity, this Christ, the Christos, the anointed one, putting that on instead. And it's very fitting that it's happening right during this time as well. And so we begin Palm Sunday with the story of Jesus. He had just performed this miraculous miracle of raising Lazarus from the dead a bit ago. And really, in order to understand what's happening in the Bible, first of all, the Bible is always alive and well within each one of us. They say the worst thing that happened to the Bible was that they put a back cover to it. So there is no conclusion. There is something always happening within the consciousness of humankind. And the Bible points to this. Anything that's going on in your life, right here, right now, yesterday, tomorrow, you can find some type of spiritual solution in this wisdom teaching. And so out of the 66 books that are contained in the Bible, today we'll concentrate on the New Testament, where it talks about the life and the teachings of Jesus Christ. And so at Unity, we also know that the Christ is this power within us, this identity, our true identity. And Jesus, the master teacher, best demonstrated that. And when he demonstrated that, miracles happened. From healing the sick to the blind, to raising the dead. This is the power that's within each one of us. Jesus also proclaimed that the things that he did, you would do and more. Do you believe that? All right. Okay, saw one head nod and a yes in the back. All right. Well, this is what we're called to do during this Holy Week, is to take this example that Jesus laid out in the Bible, in the four Gospels, of taking and making our triumphant journey into Jerusalem, this peaceful journey. And at the beginning of that, he tells his disciples to go find a donkey and a colt, a baby colt, and to bring it back to him. Now, I did some research, and see, Jesus was able to ride this colt right away. But anybody who's raised donkeys, and I know two of you have, it is very difficult. When I did the research on it, they actually take up to a year to tame. This animalistic nature as we know it in Unity, the metaphysical interpretation of that, taming that, thoughts arise, and they may not benefit us. But we do not have to attach our I am to that. We are called to put it under control, to use our denials, our power of denials, as Reverend Leavitt was talking about earlier, the fasting, and also to use the power of affirmation to plant something new in its place instead. You do not have to believe everything you think. Did you know that? It's true. Every thought that runs through your mind, you don't have to attach your I am or your identity to that. You were created in the likeness and the image of the Most High. And with that, you were extended this power This power that runs so deep within your very being. The moment you tap into it, these miracles that Jesus was able to perform, you will be able to do and more. And that is your truth. That is your identity. Your true identity is the same identity of Jesus. So Palm Sunday, he gets on top of this donkey and he rides it into Jerusalem. And with that, people are proclaiming, exclaiming, Hosanna, Hosanna in the highest. Blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord. Blessed is the King of Israel. They love him. They've heard wonderful stories about these healings and these miracles. Now, there were people that weren't too happy to see Jesus. They actually despised Jesus. If we put Jesus in nowadays in a church, there might be petitions against him. There might be people trying to drive him out of his position. There may be people who say he's got to go because they don't understand the light. They fear the light because they don't understand it. So common day, every day, what's happening right now, that's what that might look like. And so the lawmakers, the politicians, the other rabbis out there might fear what they don't understand. And it's completely human to do that. But we're being called in a spiritual community to rise. And that's what the resurrection is about. It's about the rising of consciousness, and we're starting our journey this week. We are not entertaining any thoughts of division anymore in this community within ourselves. We are being called to rise higher. If we want more, we're going to have to do more, and it starts within us. And Jesus set out showing it. And so we have this Hosanna, the palm leaves just stretch right upon his path. People just proclaiming his name and his position because they saw his authority. And when you see authority, sometimes you just don't like it. Anybody ever get scared when a cop is behind them? Exactly. I do too, okay? And I'm riding legal these days. And so, but this is what happens. It's just something just comes up. I'm not doing anything wrong, but for some reason now I gotta watch my driving, and I'm actually probably driving worse because I'm being watched at this point in time. But this is what happens, and it's okay that it's happened, but we don't have to give it power. We don't have to say, oh, this is who I am. I don't have to believe every rumor. Days later, the same people that were shouting and screaming, proclaiming Hosanna, would be the same ones that were trying to put Jesus to death, that were saying that he had to go. It's kind of like high school. I remember that. Friends one day, and then suddenly you arrive at 8 a.m., first period, and suddenly something happened overnight. You don't know exactly what it is. But that's what that sophomoric energy does. And yet we rise. We will continue to rise when we start attaching our I am to the truth of our very being. Jesus said he didn't come here to do away with the law. Rather, he came here to fulfill it. And love is the fulfillment of the law. To love your neighbor. But guess what? We also have to love those that would persecute us. And as he goes in to Jerusalem on that donkey, I believe that he knew ultimately what he was doing. He was going right through that. He was riding this donkey. He was the Prince of Peace. During that time, kings and other important people would have a procession. They would be riding on a donkey. If they didn't mean war, if they didn't want war, they were on a donkey. And he was proclaiming that he came in peace. And as we look forward to the peace in this community, let us not concentrate so much on the crucifixion. And the crucifixion, like I said, can come in many things. It can come in maybe a lost opportunity or finances that aren't flourishing. But we look to the truth that God is our source and our supply, not man, not the boss, not the financial system or the economy. That even when things look bleak within our communities or within our own home, that we are given a hope and a future. There are 10,000 promises in the Bible, each one of them great. And Jesus, touching that Christ within himself, knew it. And he knew that he would overcome the cross, the canceling out of error. It may be painful sometimes, but you don't have to affirm that. If it happens in strength and power, touch that Christ within. And as we go through this Holy Week, just know that the resurrection, your own resurrection, is coming. Put your faith, put your belief in that. When you know who has sent you, just as Jesus did, then you know nothing can defeat you, cannot diminish you, can make you feel, it can't make you feel small. Start trusting in that God within, like Jesus did. Palm Sunday marks that wonderful journey. And as we look forward to the resurrection, to the rising of consciousness, saying nothing and no one is against me, that I too shall overcome this. And with God, I do all things, or I can do all things. Let us look to that instead, not the outward appearance. And then looking to how we can apply these things to our personal lives and to this community. And Reverend Leavitt has some wonderful ways in which we can do that.
Thank you, Reverend Johanna. Well said. The triumphant entrance. The triumphant entrance. This is the day that we celebrate Jesus' triumphant entrance into the habitat of peace. And I find no coincidence. I find it extraordinarily appropriate that on this day that we celebrate Jesus' triumphant entrance into the habitat of peace, you, me, us together, this community is doing the exact same thing. No coincidence, extraordinarily appropriate. We have been given extraordinary tools and skills and support that is unceasing from Reverend Doug and Reverend Cynthia. Now, Gregory has taken the baton, and if you were here Friday, nobody dropped the baton. Those of you here know what I'm talking about. But he now will step up and companion with us and take us into the next phase of the restoration of this community. He will take us into the entrance, the triumphant entrance into restoration. And I'd like to share with you a couple of tools that I use when I have created and in the front of conflictual challenges. The first one is the 3 R's. That's right, the 3 R's. You heard that right, the 3 R's. The first R is responsibility. Ooh, responsibility. Guess what, folks? I'm responsible for me. You're responsible for you. We are responsible for us. So when there is a conflictual challenge in front of me, guess what? I am responsible for it. And I claim that responsibility. This community must claim its responsibility for the conflictual challenge that we are facing right now. We have made stories. We have believed those stories, and we have created a myth about this community that it's broken. We have created, and then we experience that brokenness. We have created it. And the truth is that this community is not broke. We have created it, and it's time to take responsibility for that creation. And as we have created a sense of brokenness, oh, boys and girls, kids of all ages, we can also create the truth that we are whole, individually and as a community. Not quite yet. Now, after I have taken responsibility, and please understand, I did not say how that would be. I did say it's a must. And believe me, it is easier than you think that it might be. I've taken responsibility. Now I enter into the realm of reconciliation. You see, folks, all feelings, we have feelings all the time. And every single one of them, underneath feelings, are issues that are screaming to be healed. And believe me, this community has feelings. It has feelings because of what we have created. Now, the feelings are basically anger and sadness. And underneath that anger and sadness are issues that are screaming for us to heal. Screaming for us to heal. It is time that we bring them to the forefront, to reconcile them. And I'm going to tell you that most of it's going to be resentment toward ourselves and each other. And it is time to reconcile those resentments with forgiveness and love. It's time to reconcile those resentments toward ourselves and each other through forgiveness and love. Okay, I have taken responsibility. I have stepped into reconciliation. Now it is the time to release. I release those resentments. I send them away into the realm of infinite possibilities from which they came. And then I choose, we choose, to go into the realm of infinite possibilities and bring forth what we want this community to be. We've created a void. We've filled the void. We created brokenness. Friends, we can create wholeness. The other tool I like to use is the covenant. In your bulletin, you will find a card. And on this one side of this card is the covenant that our founders, Myrtle and Charles Fillmore, wrote when they started, the Society of Silent Unity, which we all know and love to be unity. They wrote this covenant. And I write one whenever I have created and am stepping into a time of conflictual challenge. And I write a covenant because it keeps me focused and in line with what I must do to meet the outcome and move over the challenge. Remember, challenge is just the threshold of success. So I write a covenant. And on the other side of Myrtle and Charles's covenant is the Unity Church of Hawaii logo and the words, my covenant. I am inviting you to, in the near future, now if it comes to you, to write a covenant to keep you focused and in line with what you want this community to be. And if you don't mind, I'll model mine for you. I, Leavitt Emmons Thomas, do hereby pledge me, all of me, and my resources of time, talent, and treasure to the continuing understanding, teaching, and experiencing of truth that is, as, and will be Unity Church of Hawaii. I pledge myself freely, humbly, joyously and enthusiastically to the fulfillment of truth of this community. I take responsibility for my role in the establishment of era thinking in this community. And I now gently reconcile and release all resentments of that era thinking. I claim and declare this pledge on this, the 14th day of April, 2019. Friends, there ain't no going back. There ain't no going back. And we're not staying put. We are going to triumphantly go into harmony, unity, and peace in this community. There's no turning back. There's no staying put. There's only moving forward. And if you will, let us together set the intention of peace by speaking this peace chant together. Peace before us, peace behind us, peace above us, peace below us, peace in our community, peace to all. Friends, we are entering into the best that's yet to be.
Yes.